Hello, everybody, and today what we're going to be doing is tier listing every single segment from WWE Summerslam 2024. Now, there were 7 matches and 1 extra segment that I am also going to be tier listing on here from S all the way down to D. I'm going to probably add an F tier as well, but there's no reason for it to be there as I don't think any of the segments deserve to be there. We're going to be going in the match order on the card, and that extra segment will be at the end. But for now, we're going to start with Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. I think this was a very good way to cap off the storyline for the moment of Dom's turn over to Liv, and you can keep that going for a few more months up to this point. And I think it was a little bit predictable. You could argue Finn coming in, but he obviously turned later on in the night. But I do think this was a great turn by Dom, kissing Liv, Rhea being like, rats, and going to beat him up later. But at the same time, I think the match in itself was at least a good-ish match. It wasn't great or anything, but I think because of the storyline aspect of it, I'm going to be giving this an A tier rating for now. Definitely not the best match on the show, however, still a very entertaining one at that. Then we got Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. This was a very short match, and I do think, in my opinion, it should have been shorter. However, I think it did exactly what it needed to do. It had Braun absolutely demolish Sami and win the IC title. And a lot of people have been complaining, like, oh, Braun beat the guy who beat Gunther in like 5 minutes. Braun also has beaten Gunther. Wow. He's one of only 3 men to pin Gunther in singles competition, those being Ilya, Sami, and Braun himself. But nonetheless, I do think this was just a perfectly serviceable match. It wasn't anything too special, and everybody's signature spots, C tier for now. Then we have Logan Paul versus L.A. Knight. Yeah, this was probably my favorite match of the night, and as such, it is going in S tier. We're not basing this off of all of wrestling history, but purely the show in itself. And I think it was very entertaining. Yes, there were 1 or 2 moments that were a little off, such as Logan Paul's, I guess, brain buster that he took because he didn't rotate all the way, and the bit of a flubbed catch by LA on the outside. But otherwise, it's very entertaining. They brawled before the match started. Were very angry at each other. LA beat up MGK. Well, he didn't really beat up MGK. He beat up the 2 goons at ringside, and then MGK a little bit as well. And then there were just shenanigans all around. It was fun. Logan Paul's reign finally is over. And then the finish coming with the buckshot lariat reversed into the BFT was pretty cool. And I think it was just an entertaining match at that, seeing LA get this moment at SummerSlam. Now, it's no Misawa, it's no Omega, but it's still an entertaining match and probably, in my opinion, the best match on SummerSlam. Then we move on to Bayley versus Nia Jax. This is a lot of people's least favorite match on the show. I disagree. I think I like Sami and Braun a little less only because I know what it's supposed to be, and that's exactly what it was supposed to be. I wasn't surprised by it at all. It was just there. But Bayley and Nia had that really awesome moment where Bayley held Nia up for a powerbomb for like 5-6 seconds, which is obscenely impressive. Like that's I'm not going to try and be rude. However, I'm going to phrase this in a very specific way. Nia Jax is of the stature as to which that is a difficult task to accomplish. So the fact that Bayley was able to pull that off is very impressive, and I think that helped this match a little bit in my eyes. As such, I think you can argue C, but I'm going to be putting it in B tier, just like at the very bottom you assume of B tier. But nonetheless, it's a decent match. It's nothing incredibly special. Nia winning the title was, I guess, cool. And then Bayley getting absolutely murdered by powerbomb, annihilator was absolutely insane. So I'm shocked that Bayley is still functioning. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next match, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. I do think that I agree with a few of the criticism this match has received. A lot of people have said, oh, this blood feud where they've beaten each other to a pulp over and over again is just now about a bracelet. Boo! I agree with that a little bit in the sense I do think this match was a little bit diluted. I think it should have been a bit more than it was. I've had a few days to brew on it now, and I think that for such a match at such a big show, I do think it under-delivered a little bit. However, I don't think it was bad or in any sense. I think it was still a good match. But I think the focus being on the bracelet oh so much did kind of devalue it. Seth was, I guess, fine. I didn't enjoy all of his shenanigans, but they did help the match out anyways. I do think you can have, the Drew and Seth, Punk and Seth, and then each of them battle each other over the course of the next couple months, building to the Triple Threat Mania for that World Heavyweight Championship, hopefully, at some point, or just any title, really. Now, I do think that this match was entertaining. I don't think it's even close to their standards. I think Punk looked great. We haven't seen him look this good for a while. I think Drew looked pretty good. I think Seth looked kind of like an idiot because, well, that's kind of Seth's character. But I do think it was a good. My knuckle is like tweaking. If you see me messing with it, my knuckle is like jammed and it's been messing with me all day. Anyways, but I think that it's still a good match. It's definitely a match that will build further on in further matches down the line. As such, I'm going to be putting it in B above Bayley and Nia. But you can argue putting it in A. I just think the shenanigans were a little bit too much for my liking. Then we move on to the penultimate match of the night, which was Damian Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a banger match, probably my second favorite match of the night, and as such, it is going in S tier. I do think that the hard hittingness of this match was intense. I loved how Gunther, who's always seen as the he beats people up really, really well. Oh my gosh, he's so good at beating people up. He actually seemed vulnerable during this match with Damian. There were multiple moments where he's like, "Oh my goodness gracious," as Damian's on the offense and beating him up. And eventually, I think the finish is probably the best finish of all the matches over the night, other than Roman. But I do think that this match with Finn coming out, putting the foot on the ropes, and Damian just looking up at the Tron and seeing it happen is just so. It's smart. And wrestling, a lot of the wrestlers in kayfabe just are dumb. How many times have you seen in a match, someone turns on their partner, they don't notice it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he just got his foot on the rope, but I didn't see who did it, so oh no." And then they get beat up from behind. But Damian here looks at the screen, realizes it's Finn, turns around like, "Finn, why would you do that?" And then he, tries to attack Finn. Gunther capitalizes, locks him in the sleeper hold. But the best moment of that match is when it looks like, oh, this is how Gunther's going to win the belt. And Damian just powers out of the sleeper again to try and beat up Finn. He does eventually fall for it again and loses the title. But I do think that moment where it's like, oh my gosh, maybe he has a chance. Okay, no, he doesn't, but that was still really cool, is such a great moment whenever it happens in wrestling, and I did really enjoy it. Then we move on to the main event of the show, Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa for the WWE Championship. This was, as a match, fine. And I think if you look at it purely as a match, it's B, C tier. However, I think if you look at the story aspect, the involvement of the bloodline, potential Jacob Fatu injury, that is unfortunate. It's still coming out when I'm making this, whether or not he's injured. Looks like it's a work. And all the build that was there, I do think this is, at minimum, a B tier. And I think you can push it to A tier. And I think Roman's return could make it S tier, but I don't think there was enough of a match to build on that it deserves that. And also, Roman's theme song was really bad when it came out. I don't know why they changed it from his normal one. But I do think this is going to be hovering in this A tier slot, really only because of Roman. I'm going to put it there, but keep in mind that it's kind of hovering between A and B. It's more like a B plus, A minus situation. And then we have our little segment thing that I would like to mention where Jelly Roll came out. He attacked the Awesome Truth and Jelly Roll attacked A-Town Down Under. They come out. They're like, ha ha ha, the people in Cleveland suck, dude. And then Jelly Roll's like, nah. And they just beat him up. It's just funny shenanigans. Genuinely one of the best single-handed choke slams I think I've ever seen. I'm impressed. Theory got a ton of height. Jelly Roll looked great doing it, and then he did the 15 knuckle shuffle with Awesome Truth onto him. And that was funny and all. It's just a silly shenanigans spot. I'm going to be putting it in B because it's funny. It's not a match or anything, but as a humorous moment, it belongs there. So that is my tier list. Let me run through it quickly once more. We have Logan Paul and LA Knight and Damian Priest and Gunther in the S tier. We have Rhea and Liv and Cody and Solo in A tier. We have Punk, McIntyre, and Seth, Bayley and Nia, and Jelly Roll in B tier, and in C tier we have Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and if you agree with this tier list, let me know down below. If you think there's something that I've forgotten, messed up, maybe you think Braun and Sammy's the best match on the show, Logan and LA is the worst match on the show, let me know down in them comments down below. Make sure you have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good dawn, good dusk, good whatever. Make sure to watch any former or future episodes on this channel, and goodbye.